Hi everyone, my name is Rima. I'm happy to present our work on Fairy Cursor. This work is done with my collaborators Jim and Haijun. Cursor is one of the oldest and most fundamental elements in graphic user interfaces. From when it's first introduced 50 years ago to what we have today, if we think about it, the cursor is almost like a small digital avatar of ourselves, navigating through a digital space. Let's take a first-person view of the cursor. This is me trying to find a file. This is me trying to select a piece of text. I wonder why it's so hard to make the correct selection. Here, I'm getting consistent headshots for my collaborators. Graphic editing is one of the busiest jobs ever for the cursor. It's a marathon of zigs and zags. We are now in 2026. We may naturally think, how about we ask AI? But with the current form of AI assistance, getting help often means breaking away from the current task, switching to another window, explaining a lot of context, then coming back to verify the results. Can we bring them closer? Or is it possible to get help right at the place where we are already acting? We explore Fairy Cursor. Cursor with a small AI companion that lives around and provides assistance in the flow of work. Certainly, it might not always be the best form, so in this work, we want to understand the opportunities and challenges of it. This form has a unique potential to provide help in the flow of work, so we first ask, in what moments does the flow of work break? Studying this was tricky. The moments we cared about are often small, situated, and easy to forget, so interviews alone would miss them. But if we direct, observe, or record people's real work with private information on the screen, the users might change the authentic workflow we want to study. So we designed a retrospective Think Aloud study. Participants recorded realistic daily computer tasks. We then reviewed their workflows with them. They were asked to verbally describe their workflows and only share the screen when they wanted. During the study, participants reflect on where they felt out of flow, and an AI companion nearby would have been helpful. We conducted a study with 9 participants and 12 of their working sessions. Tasks included prototyping, grading, programming, communications, and more. So, in what moments does the flow of work break? We found these moments are really big blockers, but often small frictions. We grouped them into 3 categories. The first one was the difficulty of returning to a previous context. P2 had to leave the Gmail tab to take a screenshot for an email response, but then struggled to navigate back to the original email. Another interesting but common one is getting back to something during a gap time. P4 was waiting for a rendering process to finish and wanted to use the time for a small leftover task, but struggled to record and switch. Second is the tedium of completing many small but repetitive actions. Tedious but do not justify a full automation. For example, P5 was evaluating restaurant options. They had to search across multiple sources to find the images of menu items. P9 was annoyed with finding the BIP entry. Though less efficient, they kept doing this without trying to get a third-party tool. The third one is the lack of support for holding ephemeral information. When P4 was grading assignment, they received a Slack message of a reading link. They wanted to save it for later and ended up taking a lot of time just deciding where to take that note. Our paper reports a detailed list of such cases. Please check it out and you may find them relatable. So how a form like Fairy Cursor can be helpful in these cases? We proposed mark, spell, and memory as 3 primary interaction concepts of Fairy. Mark is a lightweight mechanism for creating referential anchors. It can be created on any screen elements, such as a text selection or screen region. Marks are where Fairy latches on, and they preserve the context about where and when we visited them. The simplest usage is note-taking on any margin of the screen with a tracked provenance. It also provides a way for Fairy to teleport to that helps with efficient navigation. For example, when reading the paper, we sometimes lost when jumping between the main text and the reference. With Mark, clicking on the citation number will lead us to the corresponding record and allow us to get back to where we left off on reading. Spells are actions on marks. They reify repetitive small actions into reusable functions. It can be automatically generated based on the context. For example, when a user marks Slack message, in the context of asking where it came from, the spell can surface its provenance by linking back to the original source. Spells can also be defined by the user. To me, get bib tags is always a pain. The default spell here is download paper. I can trigger the prompt box, and in this case, Fairy asks me to demonstrate the workflow. At the same time, it communicates back to me what each action is seeing. In the end, I can edit the sequence of actions and add the spell. This spell can then be applied to other literature links across applications. Memory aims to support holding ephemeral information without committing to long-term storage. Memory is designed to be fingertip single entry. We've seen it in the note-taking example. It also serves as shared context for intelligent information transfer. Here we can mark the content in a flight itinerary with the memorize spell. Fairy extract contents into the memory. And next time when we fill in a reimbursement form, it can surface relevant information without the painful email digging. With these concepts, we want to probe users' perception, challenges, and emerging expectations around our cursor-centric AI assistants. Ideally, Fairy Cursor would be deployed in real-world use, but current VLM-based screen understanding and automation remain too slow and error-prone, often introducing delays or failures that would confound with the interaction we want to study. To let participants experience interaction we envisioned, we designed a playground with predefined scenarios. We found that cursor-centric assistance requires a tunable and adaptive presence rather than a single fixed design. Participants were allowed to customize their fairy. As we can see here, some prefer the fairy to stay at the tail of the cursor, some on the side but a big one, and some on the tip. Some wanted the fairy to follow the cursor closely. Some preferred a slight delay, so it felt like it was trailing behind. Participants also had different preferences of whether the fairy should always follow the cursor. P5 enjoyed always following, as it signals help is always available. P4 and P7 suggested that the fairy should not always follow. Instead, it could reside near relevant UI elements on a screen corner. There is an interesting challenge of potential visual fatigue. P4 mentioned there was a tool that let you decorate your cursor. It didn't do anything functional, so it wasn't annoying. At first, I thought it was cool, and I used it for a while, but eventually I just turned it off. I don't know why, I just wanted my original cursor back. Second, there is much more to do on designing Fairy Cursor's visual language that is both expressive and unobtrusive. As P2 and P5 noted, they would like to be continuously communicated by Fairy what would it do and what has been done. If it's doing something for me in the background, I want a little sign, definitely not a pop-up, but something that lets me know it worked. Just like our existing cursor has a consistent visual language across platforms to communicate its states, we also envision a visual language communicate Fairy states that can also support different collaboration modes. We summarize 8 from the study, such as detaching from and attaching to the user's cursor, synchronize across views or swapping positions, suggesting next positions, or observing users' actions. Third, because Fairy is always there, participants started to expect it to provide more personalized assistance. P1 wanted their Fairy to learn to rename the files for them as they always struggle with it, and P5 wanted the Fairy to learn about their navigation habits for a specific site. We have a lot more interesting findings in the paper. Please check it out. Zooming out, there is a growing interest in embodying intelligence within or around the cursor. Computer use introduces a separate agent cursor that users can instruct. Recently, Google's AI cursor leverages its pointing function for input reference. Users can give instructions with this and that. Besides a separate agent cursor or a more powerful version of our cursor, we believe there are rich opportunities in designing for the interleaved collaboration and continuous grounding between human and AI, with this cursor-centric form factor. This work explores the three types of tasks that require in-the-flow support, the mark, spell, and memory interaction concepts, and findings on the fairy cursor's visual presence, their communication language, and expectation of personalization. We believe this space has a lot more to explore about how humans and AI can collaborate not as separate actors, but as continuous grounded partners in the flow of work. Thank you for listening, and feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions. Thank you.